I'm going to wait until my picture comes. There I am. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure how I got voted to start this, but here we go. We want to start first as part of our gathering with a time of worship, because it's important for us to ground ourselves and to remember that we are in fact the church. As we gather today, and I'm using some words here from our moderator, Richard, I'd like to ask us to take a moment to connect where we are physically to this virtual space that we're also in. I ask you to take a moment to recognize the space you're in, and even more than that, to recognize the land upon which that space sits. For 10,000 years and more, there have been people living on this land, not just being responsible for this land, but being an integral part of it. This is the traditional territory, and in many places in which we live, unceded territory of the various indigenous peoples of this land. Those of us who are settlers, descendants of settlers and newcomers, need to acknowledge that reality, give thanks for the indigenous people's care for this land, past and present, for the fact that we are able to worship the divine on it. And we need to recognize that we continue to live in broken relationship. This is a moment to recommit ourselves to working for right relations each and every day. That is what a territorial acknowledgement is about, more than just pretty words. Commitment to working for right relations. I come to you from the territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Attawandaron, and other Anishinaabe peoples. Now, we will be using a prayer from the Called to Be the Church Congregational Giving Program in a moment to get us started. This comes from the All-in-One Gratitude Sunday 1 week materials. You can find it there if you're looking for it later. I encourage you to pray with me together. We will not hear you, but that's okay. Voices raised are voices raised. So, Stephen, are you advancing this slide, or am I, or how's that happening?
I'm advancing the slide, so you just need to tell me when you want it.
Now would be good. And let's pray together. Generous God, giver of every good and perfect gift, we lift our voices today to express our thanks and praise for health and strength, for family and friends, for our homes and this church community, and for your abiding and life-giving presence. We say thank you. Slide. For your love, which knows no bounds, and for empowering us to share your love with others, we sing your praise. Make us deeply aware of your presence today as we gather together to worship in Jesus' name. Amen.
When I was talking with the moderator the other night and helping to record his worship service that some of us may use on Sunday, I invited him to offer some greetings into our gathering. Those of you who were here last night will have seen this already. We didn't record two separate ones because we knew that these were overlapping audiences, both talking about really similar things. But I think it's important, again, to remember that this is not just a bunch of concerned bureaucrats who are trying to do something with you. This is really the whole church gathered together and in prayer at a time which is complicated and frightening. And so the moderator, I think, had useful things to say, and I wanted to share them with you. Oh, hang on. I need to make sure that he has sound, so I'll need to restart the sharing. Try again. One of the things about Zoom is that it will share sound, but only if you click the right button. Okay, let's try again.
Hello, grace and peace to you in the name of Jesus Christ. I understand that this is a gathering of both ministry personnel and people who are in church leadership, especially treasurers, who have come together to do some thinking about how we're going to respond to some of the financial needs and resource needs in our communities of faith at this point in time. I realize that there is so much uncertainty right now, And that is making it difficult for all of us, especially those of us who like to have plans in place that look not just towards this week or this month or even this year, but much longer. And so I'm really glad that you're able to be together to do some of the thinking that needs to be done. I understand that Eric Matheson and David Armour are with you, two folks from the General Counsel Office who have been working along with their teams to bring together resources to help our communities of faith and our ministers at this time. I know, having seen so many emails come through this week, that the General Counsel Office is doing everything it can to be able to support your ministries. And so I hope that you will turn to them and listen to them and share your thoughts with them openly. May God bless you in the ministries that you are doing and in the ministries that you are going to continue to do, because that's what Christ has called us to. Peace be with you.
Okay, Dave, go ahead. Over to you.
I believe we're going to David, who's going to give us a little overview of our time together and say some things.
Okay, David, hang on. Where are you? David Armour, unmute your phone. Go ahead, David, please.
Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of Congregational Finances during the pandemic. When we organized the session for last night for treasurers, we also thought it would be important to have a session for ministers, because the minister's role in congregational finances, in generosity, and in giving is different than the treasurer's. We thought we'd have a different focus today. So we're going to cover the material that we covered last night fairly quickly. Eric Matheson, Chief Financial Officer of General Counsel Office, and myself are going to take us quickly through the material that was covered yesterday. But if you have more questions and would like a more intense run at that, look at the video from last night on the technical aspects of this. But then the rest of our session today, we're going to focus on the minister's role. And so I asked three of the ministers that are in our philanthropy team, Trish Elliott, Dave Jagger, and Roger Janes, to join in a panel discussion and really to grapple with some of the issues and talk a bit about the minister's role, about some of the challenges, about some opportunities, and really have a bit of a discussion with you. So that's what today is really focused on. So welcome to the session, and I'll pass it back to Steve.
Okay, I think probably Dave, you're up, are you? Who is next?
Eric is going to go next.
Eric is up. Eric, let me find you and unmute you. Welcome, Eric. It's good to see you again. Long time no see.
Yes, it's been a little while. And actually, we may have a duplicate slide in there. So if you can go to the next slide, I'm hoping it will be the one I'm planning to speak to, and it is. So I'm going to pretend that you weren't there last night, and just this is a slide that I presented to treasurers around the incredibly difficult balancing act that we're trying to navigate right now as a faith community at all levels of the church. There isn't a collection plate being passed. Our buildings are locked and rental income's lost. And we were really fighting to break even before that. So from a financial point of view, preserving cash is a major priority. And this is to pay the bills. This is to pay salaries. So you've got the short-term financial consideration there. It's at a time where if your congregation is lucky enough to have investments, they've been beaten up badly too, and it may be it's the worst possible time to have to cash in an investment. And so you get into all kinds of choices there, and they're painful choices. There's a question already about layoffs here on the chat screen, and even insolvency. And then balance that against the fact that 4 million Canadians have already applied for unemployment. Balance that against the fact that personal and social anxiety is so high. We've never needed our ministers in our churches more than right now. And I say here, of course, that the church voice is important. So that balancing act, there are decisions being made at every level of the church, or are going to need to be made, because we don't even know, whether, how long this might last. We don't really know what to plan for, and yet we're all in this together trying to figure that out. So last night I reported in more detail about all kinds of things that treasurers worry about, how to even code things in some cases and how something might work. But today I'm just going to give you a very quick snapshot, and happy to field questions. There's still a lot of stuff being figured out. So next slide, please. So it doesn't matter, individual, church, small business, it doesn't matter right now. Revenue probably isn't happening the way it was even 3 weeks ago. So there's a huge premium on trying to save cash. And here's some of the things that we're doing at the national church level. If your congregation happened to have a loan with the national church, just request a loan payment moratorium. That's a significant outlay, and on request, we'll stop processing loan repayments right away. Similarly, on if you're paying assessment, if it's on auto pay where it's already coming out of your bank account electronically, you'll have to ask us to stop that, and we will. If it's on direct pay, that's a bill you can ignore. We're not going to sue you or change the locks on your door for that. So that's a way to preserve some cash. We do hope that in some months that's a bill that you will be able to pay. We're counting on that, actually, but there it is. If you have an insurance bill coming up, and insurance is another area that's going to be very, very scary the next while. We're going to see premium increases because of all this uncertainty. If you're paying annually right now, switch it to so you're paying, divided by 12. Again, you're just getting a bit more cash in your pocket. And all these things are like anything where you can save cash is something that we're doing in our individual households. We're doing to try to cope with the challenges of the economy right now. So next slide, please. So there's a lot of treasurer interest in this, and I basically said that relax, you will all get this. You don't need to rush, because everything to deal with the federal government right now, one of the reasons the internet's slow is because every 1-800 number to the government is clogged. Everybody's Zooming like we are. So there is a modest subsidy. I'm going to say modest because the maximum is $25,000, and for most congregations it might be $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, depending on how many people you have. But there's, for a short period of time, March 18th through June 20th or something, and it could well be extended. There is a credit that charities will get, and we will. It's still being figured out. The payroll companies had no idea this was coming and are still figuring it out. And I expect to have more information on this in my national webinar broadcast next Wednesday night. But this is one that folks are asking about because they read about it in the paper. It's not a big deal, but every little bit helps.
Eric, let me just back up for a minute. Question from the YouTube audience. You were talking about putting a moratorium on loan payments. Does that mean interest keeps accumulating?
For the moment, yes, but that could change. Everything in our world is changing daily. For the moment, we're dealing with the cash crunch. We'll consider interest another time, but all of our loans are at very low rates anyway. The national ones are at 2 and 2.5%.
Thank you.
So we could move to the next slide, and if people keep throwing me questions, that's fine. And in fact, I see a question from Judith. 10% of annual, yes, it's 10% of the annual well, it's 10% of the salary bill during that period. So it potentially could be some thousands of dollars for a smaller congregation. One of the areas that we're really spending a lot of time on, we do know that many congregations, for the reasons I've talked about, are going to be facing very difficult cash flow related decisions. So this is sort of a shopping list. Some regions have already or are discussing or are working on some programs for this. And so is the denomination. And at the denomination level, we're looking at taking on major debt. We think we have the capacity to borrow money more easily than local congregations, certainly. So we're looking at a major loan that's still being negotiated to potentially serve as a backstop for congregations to help make payroll, to help all of us come out the other side of this COVID-19 crisis. One thing that I've already had several requests today, for example, we are asking folks to look locally first. So a number of congregations have already asked me, as in my capacity as the national officer, to guarantee their local line of credit increase request. And we will do that as a matter of routine. Literally, we'll do it by email. Everything has to be faster. So we're going to do that. We want you to work closely with the region, because the region will have the most current information in your particular province as well. So we're looking, several regions have announced, in some cases, incredible, like full flexibility in borrowing from Manse funds. Everybody's trying to expedite paperwork. And frankly, having a check in the mail isn't overly helpful right now. So we're really, really focused on getting that money deposited to people's bank accounts directly. Next slide. So this is sort of a quick hierarchy. The first place you can look for cash is cash you have, or in cashing in investments. But I did mention awful time to be doing it. So that's another factor in your decision. If you have a line of credit, you should be using it. Interest rates are very low. I'm saying here's the national line of credit guarantee for either opening a new one, or if your bank requires you to have some kind of guarantee. This is automatic NSF protection. If your payroll check bounces, there's already a mechanism where people get paid first, but all kinds of alarm bells go off, and there, ADP immediately notifies us in national role. We work with the region and the congregation for some kind of remedial action. And I'm mentioning here, there's a loan program proposed. There will be a degree of loan program no matter what, but the size of it is something that's is still just being finalized, and the General Counsel Executive is meeting this weekend to consider proposals in that regard. So by Monday, we'll have a sense of scale, and by next Wednesday, we'll have more detail for you. Interest-free if repaid in 2020. That's for now, that's been thrown out as an idea. I've already had several requests saying, given the possible length of this thing, maybe it should be interest-free till 2021. Details are still to be figured out. Next slide, please. There aren't too many more. So a key slide here, before you do anything rash, and I've seen a mention of layoffs in the chat box. That's what one of the things we're talking about. But also, before you close, before you, mortgage everything, check with the region, see what they will have the most current information on your province. Also, any regional assistance programs. The federal programs, literally some new ones were announced yesterday relating to short-term layoff support. And I just want to say that the church has never moved this quickly. All our worlds have changed in the last 3 weeks. And again, the executives meeting this weekend, and we're going to have a ton more information next week. One more slide, I think, or maybe not. There we go. So listen, I'm going to just check for questions, and I'm seeing a few here. So yeah, Clyde has answered. It's basically 10% of the this is a wage subsidy is 10% of the salaries paid between March 18th and June 19th. Just trying to see what else there might be here.
One of the questions on YouTube, I'm seeing there's a fee if there's an NSF payroll problem. How much is the fee?
That's correct. Actually, last night I didn't know the answer to that, but it's $125 as an immediate fee, and then of course we have to find the money somewhere to make ADP whole.
Okay, so then the next question is about contract employees, caretaker, music director, etc. What are the possibilities for them?
Well, it depends. This is going to be one of the things that's important. The first test is if they're an employee, and that means paying source deductions and so on. But yeah. Certainly the wage subsidy applies to, my understanding so far is your total payroll. And then the layoff provisions are going to be different, I think, depending if someone has employee status. And there is still protection being provided by the government. EI is employment insurance is for those covered by employment insurance, which roles in the church would be. But if there are jobs that aren't covered by EI, that's where the emergency coverage that was announced yesterday would kick in.
So there's a bunch of questions coming up about payment methods, Canada Helps and e-transfers and stuff, and I know that the team is going to get to those in a minute. So let's hold off on those.
That's right. David will speak to those.
Right on. Do we need to apply as individual pastoral charges for the wage subsidy, or is something being done that'll cover it for all of us?
That's one of those TBA questions to be announced. We are working with ADP to see if that can sort of just be done for us automatically, because to do it on an individual case-by-case basis, there's a calculation and coding and all kinds of stuff that would make it more difficult. So I'm hoping to announce next week that there might be a fully automated solution, but I cannot promise that yet.
Things are changing as we go.
Oh yeah.
So somebody's saying a little confused. Is the 1375 for each staff member or for each employer congregation? Where's that 1375 come from?
The 1375 is 10% of an individual salary, and the salary amount is from March 18th to June 19th. So whatever that is, it's about a quarter of an annual salary, more or less. I think that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And are clergy covered by EI, by employment insurance?
It's my understanding that they are.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I'm seeing, Eric. Unless somebody else has something else to add, we can probably carry on and look at ways that donations can come in, even though we don't have a offering plate to pass around.
That's great. No, David's ready to go on that portion of it. And again, we covered it in considerable detail last night. I don't know if David's plan is quite the same level as today, but we'll find out.
Okay, so one last comment I'll throw at you, and it's a pastoral relations question. Any comments on what we should watch out for if our congregation is looking at the possibility of cutting ministry hours back to balance the budget?
Well, I mean, I'm speaking now as someone who the hat is financial. So, you know, in that balancing act, the first test is to check with the region. I totally subscribe to the notion that we need our ministers more than ever right now, but that doesn't mean that that's financially doable, and that's why we're doing everything possible to come up with some bridge funding support.
Right on. Thank you. And Phil is pointing out our terms of call normally have 90 days notice to change, and you have to have a meeting that's chaired by somebody from the region. And
all those things that are normal. And I'm not suggesting, our polity was not designed to administer during a pandemic. So I would argue that it's in the best interest of everybody to be able to move quickly, but I will leave that to our HR folks and everyone else to make sure that we're being as responsible as we can.
I think that's fair, and we didn't invite an HR person on this call, but I would say for the short term, congregations need to be looking at other options, because changing terms of call is time consuming and complicated. And I take seriously your comment when you opened, Eric, that this is a time when we need our ministry personnel more than any other.
Well, I absolutely believe that. And again, the balancing act, though, is a very challenging one. And again, I just want to say that's why we think we all have to, step up more than we ever have.
Mm-hmm. And Arlise, while we may have a colleague who works in the OV online, it doesn't mean that we invited him to prepare for this. So I wanted to be cautious about that. Anyway, Adam is saying pastoral relations, talk to your regional council pastoral relations minister. So I think
absolutely,
the word goes back. We have the infrastructure, the personnel are in place, and they are here to serve. Okay, I think we should go over to David and allow him to carry on. And some of the questions that are coming up about mechanisms like e-transfers and Canada Helps and PAR and all of that, I'm sure David's going to get into, as much as there's still current information for that. So David, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Steve. And thanks, Eric, for all of that. So let's talk a little bit about ongoing donations and generosity. Let's start first with the minister's role. So there's really two parts, aren't there? There's the first part, which is generosity as part of a faith practice, as part of discipleship, as part of the worship service, as the sacred part in the worship service, as part of many meetings that we have. Now, all of a sudden, all of our meetings are online. They're not in person. And the question is, how can we sustain that? How can, as ministers, you continue the practice of generosity, of inspire, invite, and thank, with it being online? So we're just going to go through this list a little quicker than we did last night so that we have more time for the panel. But essentially, post-dated checks still work. It's just amazing how the people of the United Church love to make payments with checks. We receive a huge number of checks at the General Council office, even though there's online and everything. People do like to fill in post-dated checks, and the challenge will be to figure out how to get those checks to the church if the church is closed, how to get those maybe to the treasurer, to the envelope secretary, to the minister, like figuring out within your congregation, can you be accepting these checks, and how will they get them to you in a way that's within whatever the public health regulations are at the time. So in some cases, bank branches may be closed. It may get a little tricky for you. But really thinking about post-dated checks as sort of a first and easiest way to go where a lot of our church members have been. Next, if we look at pre-authorized remittance, PAR has been with us for a long time. If you look at approximately $250 million in total donations in congregations across Canada, PAR is about 100 million of that. It's a very stable piece. It's easy for congregations. And this is a time where you could be signing more people up on PAR. This may be a time where you say you want to talk to those that are on PAR about the amount that they're giving. So it's an opportunity to be looking at PAR and looking at that. There's a PAR authorization form that needs to be filled out and literally mailed, because perhaps if the office is closed and we don't want PAR authorization forms scanned and emailed, because that will, emails aren't secure, and there's lots of information on there. So it's about, and I think one of our team members will put that on your screen. It's mailing it to Rose Camborne. And we've got a document, it's called Generosity in Unprecedented Times. It'll be posted on the church's website or on the coronavirus site within a day, we hope. And so PAR is really an interesting way to go and to really look at that. And I asked Dave Jagger, who worked with me yesterday, if you want to add anything on PAR or on checks.
Thanks, David. I would just remind people that if you're already on PAR, or people you have that are already on PAR, they can make changes to their PAR amounts, whether that's up or down, through the local PAR contact, or they can do it directly to the PAR administrator. I'm going to type the email right now into the chat box: par@unitedchurch.ca.
What about fax? Does Rose
I
have a
got
fax?
untied.
Oh, it's okay. Do you have a fax number for Rose as well, or is it better to send them by email?
It's only, no, not by email at all.
Okay.
If you're doing new, so new signups for PAR on paper, go to Rose. Changes for people who already have PAR can be done through email. Just remember, when you send an email to the PAR account, to the PAR administrator, to include your PAR number so that they make sure you're the right Dave Jagger, because there might be more than one, heaven forbid.
That's a scary thought, Dave.
Yes. There, I corrected that email address. There's no
Awesome.
untied in there. So
Okay.
for PAR, that's it. And in fact, we're actually making it very clear to people: do not send scanned or photographed images of the PAR sign up form or the void check by email. That is not a secure way to send sensitive financial information, and we don't want anyone's information to be compromised. So only use the par@united-church.ca email for changing PAR that's already been set up. That's important. And if your congregation can make it easy for people by helping them over the phone or over Zoom to fill out the form and to make that happen, that'll make their lives easier. And that's a pastoral concern as much as people are more likely to do something that's easy.
And someone just asked if changes to PAR can be done through the mail as well as email, and yes, they can. Either works.
So
Certainly.
So two questions that I'm seeing. You haven't addressed yet whether or not Rose has a fax and whether faxes could be sent.
Don't know, Eric, does Rose have a fax?
Eric, you're muted. Hang on. Go ahead.
I'm checking as we speak.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the first time someone's brought it up. It's a great idea. Let's look into it.
The next question is, and it came privately to me, how will people know their PAR number? They're going to have to talk to their church treasurer, I guess.
Or whoever it is that oversees PAR at their local congregation, community of faith setting. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Eric, okay. Hot off the press, and you just muted yourself. Let's try again.
It doesn't matter. Here, we're working at cross purposes there. The PAR, as long as they can name their church on there, don't worry about the PAR number. I mean, right now, just get it to us as quick as you can if you're wanting to increase your support or get going on PAR to help your local congregation.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you, Eric.
Great.
You're really trying to make this as easy as you can, aren't you?
Yes.
Totally, we all are. Let's move on to Canada Helps then, if we can.
Yes, please.
So moving on to Canada Helps. So we're really lucky in Canada. We have a charitable organization that is totally focused on receiving and forwarding charitable gifts online for all charities in Canada. And so it stands alone, unlike the for-profit corporations and unlike the US-based for-profit corporations and the issues around data and everything else. We've got a really good partner in Canada Helps. And basically everybody's already on Canada Helps because you're a registered charity. You're basically a regular basic profile account. And as a basic profile account, they receive and receipt, thank the money, forward it to you. They forward it once a month and they charge 4%. If you set up as a full fundraising account and register with them as that, your fee goes down to 3.5%. And now
Actually, David, I need to
Yep.
stop you on that one.
Jump in.
I was in touch with Canada Helps today, and we have not been giving entirely accurate information. So the deal is that, yes, you need to sign up and get either the free profile account or the free full fundraising account. However, the fee does not change at that point. So a one-time donation is still charged at 4%. And if someone signs up for monthly ongoing donations through their credit card, that's charged at 3.5%. When you sign up for the full fundraising account, and I don't know why you wouldn't, then you can set up a fundraising form directly as part of your website so that the gift takes place on your website. That's when the fee drops to 3.75%. And I'm going to be updating our imminently arriving document with all that information.
I love it when the information changes since last night. That's great. A lot of things,
it's all happening that fast. Yep.
as Eric's saying, a lot of things are changing. A lot of things we're just updating on the fly.
That's
and
right.
Somebody's pointing out, does Canada Help allow use of credit cards, including Visa debit?
I know that Canada Helps only uses credit cards. I don't know about Visa debit. I don't think so.
We can find out and post that for you.
Yep.
The other thing about Canada Helps is I think the key beauty of Canada Helps is putting a donate button on your website. You can send members of your church to Canada Helps and they can find your church in that whole list. But just put a button on the upper right-hand corner, put the button in green. Green means go, and hook that into Canada Helps. And then during worship service, you can just ask people on their cell phones and tablets to go straight to the donate button on the front page of your website. That's the real power of Canada Helps, is they basically do all the back office behind the button on your website. You can do the other if you need, but I think it's really about the donate button and the way you can automate that with them.
So YouTube question, somebody's asking about a different agency called Tithely. What do you know about them?
We know.
It's
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, it's a US-based organization. When you're dealing with US-based organizations, you're as we understand it, transferring your donor list to the states, which makes them accessible by Homeland Security, if you're comfortable with that. And I think they charge a bit more than Canada Helps. I know a number of churches use them and like them. That's great. But when we looked at the whole range of organizations, Susan Graham Walker went through everything that was out there, the entire marketplace. That's how we came up with Canada Helps, a set of criteria that we had around sort of what would be the preferred vendor. Dave, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, what you said about Tithely is absolutely correct. One of the other pieces that I was going to add around Canada Helps, once you've signed up for the free full fundraising account, is they have another piece to theirs, because there's a lot of different tools that they have. And again, you only pay for what people use. That's the beauty of them too. It's a rounding up program. So that when people go and they use their credit card, or I don't know if it works for debit cards, I'll have to check that, at a store, and they pay, $8 and something, or now they do it online with Amazon because they can't go out. If they use that card, it rounds it up to, and you can choose whether it's the next dollar or $5 or that, and that amount that's rounded up is a gift to the charity that they choose, i.e. your church. So it's a way that people can be giving to you ongoing, regularly, in small amounts that add up over time. And that's one of the other things that Canada Helps provides, and I think only Canada Helps provides.
And the other
So-
piece, if I could jump in,
Yep.
in answer to Cindy's question. Hi, Cindy. I've had discussions with the CEO of Canada Helps around a better deal, like a price break for the whole church, and we haven't concluded those yet, but we've introduced that. We've had some initial discussions around that, and we're pursuing that. But at this point, we don't have that yet.
Okay. So I'm going to suggest we move along because
Yep.
we're trying to take a big picture view of things here. If people have specific questions about how to implement some of these, would they talk to the financial gifts officer in their region?
Yep.
Would they call Dave? Who do they go to?
Yes.
And we'll give them the email addresses at the end of the
Yes,
webinar.
either call the financial gift officer in your region. We'll have the list at the end of this presentation. So then the last piece, just to wrap up with, is e-transfers. And by e-transfers, we're talking about emailing money from one email address to another. So e-transfers, lots of people use that. And the key is if somebody wants to make a donation, they can e-transfer that to the church. So think about whose address it would go to. Would it go to the church's email address? Would it go to the treasurer's? Would it go to the envelope secretaries? How do you manage and ensure that two people are opening this and transferring money? How do you sort of track the money in the same way that you would with money that's on an offering plate? But it is a good way of doing it with an email address for those that want to do e-transfers. Our approach at the national office on all of our giving is really multimodal in that we open all channels possible: phone, electronic, online, checks mailed in, everything. So as congregations, you want to be thinking about, out of this list, what are the ones you want to be doing? What are the ones you want to really focus on with your congregations and with the people that are in your congregation? What works best? Back to you, Steve.
Okay.
I think we're going to Trish.
Let me just move along here to the next, and it says panel conversation. So,
All
Yep.
right.
so who's next? Who's up on the panel?
That would be Trish,
Trisha.
along with Roger and I.
Let me go find your mic, Trish, so that I can. There you are. Okay, over to you, Trish. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm looking forward to talking to Dave and Roger about various issues that we may be grappling with at this time as ministry personnel serving communities of faith at this moment. And Dave and Roger have about 4 and 5 years experience in this field. And so they've been dedicating their professional lives to studying stewardship and ministry. And so I'm going to pick their brains for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll turn it back to you for questions. So the first question is, how can we go about inspiring our congregation members right now? Roger?
Hi, everyone. I'm having a little trouble with my internet, so I'm hoping it's going to work with my camera on. And if it doesn't, then I'll turn my camera off. So I think the first thing that we need to acknowledge is that we live in a church culture that's often weary and even fearful of talking about money. And the bottom line is we don't want to turn people off. And so in the past, we had it pretty good because in most healthy churches, we didn't need to talk about money. We saw our role as leaders mostly in setting the budget and then sitting back and hoping and sometimes praying that the income came in. And in most churches, if it didn't, or if we got a little weary towards the end of the year, we kind of put something in the bulletin that just shared information, hoping that would motivate people to step up. Or if worse came to worse, we made an announcement and told people of the dire consequences if we didn't meet budget. But for the most part, most churches, and particularly for us as clergy and as lay leaders, we haven't had a lot to do with the money side of things. And that's been perfectly fine with most of us because we're kind of uncomfortable. But as I've said in my workshops, and some of you have been a part of those, in recent times, what has always worked, just setting the budget and waiting, no longer works. And part of that is because there's less and less people attending church and bringing their envelope with them. And there's also less people coming to church and giving to the church. About 1/3 less givers in the last 10 years alone. And so what we've been saying through philanthropy is we need to change the way we do things. We need to inspire people to give. And the same old is no longer going to work. And if we ever needed a crisis to bring that to the fore, it's this particular pandemic crisis. And so we do, as clergy, have a particular role, I think more than ever. And we need to use our stewardship best practices, and we need to effectively motivate people to give. And doing so, I find it helpful to remind myself that when we're asking for money, when we're seeking people's donations, we're not asking for money for ourselves. What we're doing is we're asking people to support a ministry that all of us together deem really important, one that makes a great difference in the lives of a lot of people. So that's the starting place, and I think Dave will take it from there.
Yeah, we recognize that following from a book some of you have heard us refer to before, called Not My Parents' Offering Plate. And we have a picture on the next slide of the book cover, Not Your Parents' Offering Plate. Highly recommend this book. In it, the author Cliff Christopher talks about the 3 reasons why people give. Number 1, as Roger has indicated, is it's all about the mission and ministry of the congregation, and they're in agreement with it. And of course they are. That's why they're part of your congregation. The second reason that people give is because they know that, Roger, you can help me if I get them in the wrong order. The second reason is because they have a personal relationship with the leadership of the congregation. And that may be you as the ministry personnel, but it could be, let's say, if it's a member of the choir, it could be the music director, or if it's a youth, it might be the youth leader. But they have a personal relationship with that person, because people give to people and to help people, not so much just to pay the bills. And then the third reason why people give is because the congregation, the organization to which they're giving, has assured those people that the money's going to do what they said it's going to do, that they are solid, that they are making a difference by using that money, and they can show how that's happening. So how do you go about inspiring your congregational members right now? It's all about the mission. It's all about the mission. It's all about the mission. It's all about relationship. It's all about relationship. It's all about relationship. And it's not the time for what we've been calling the Chicken Little syndrome. The sky is falling. It's all going to come crashing down around us. We have a plan. We're going to work the plan. We'll keep you up to date on how it goes, is a really good, solid message for congregations to be giving.
Hey, Dave, so what if the sky is falling, though, for some people? In some people's lives, the sky is falling, and I mean, they're being laid off. That's affecting their families. How do we ask for money in a time like this? Next slide, please.
I think that, first of all, we need to keep very clear the distinction between pastoral care and talking about money. If you're calling the people in the congregation in order to be pastoral, check in on them, how are you doing, pray with them, that's a pastoral care call. If you're calling to talk about the finances of the church, that needs to be done separately. Now, I can argue, and have argued at other times, that those two go together, but I think in this time frame, in this situation, they need to be separated. It was suggested, somebody that Roger had been listening from in Nova Scotia was writing a really good letter to the congregation around the finances, letting them know how they were dealing with the financial situation of the congregation, telling a couple of stories about what the congregation was doing around its mission to help people within the congregation and within the community, and inviting people in clear ways to continue to support the work and ministry of the congregation as they are able to, and that's key. That was a way to separate those two. So everyone was going to get the letter, but in the meantime, they were also contacting all the people in the congregation to take care of them, to do pastoral care. Roger, do you want to comment on that?
Do you think, Dave, that sometimes as ministry personnel, we are so attentive to and in tune with the difficulties and the challenges that sometimes we're not able to see beyond those? And this might be a time when there are people who are able to be generous and would be generous if they were asked, and would feel really good about being able to do more at this time to lift everybody up.
Absolutely. It's one of the challenges that I think a lot of our ministry personnel are going to be facing over the next number of months. There is a natural tendency, as Roger said, we don't want to upset anybody or offend anyone. We don't want to ask people who are already struggling to do more. But so the tendency is to not ask or not talk about it at all. I think that would be a mistake. I think we need to talk about those things because there are also people in our congregations who actually have a fairly good financial back and are not going to be struggling to the same degree, and may quite willingly and happily be willing to step up. It would be important to not phrase this in terms of, we're asking you to give more because these people over here are unable to, but it would be important to phrase it as, this is what the community of Jesus does as it cares for each other and shares the resources it has available to it.
Roger, you have some thoughts about who to approach in the congregation if someone who would be inclined to be more generous in a time like this, and you also have some thoughts about ways to approach. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, I think one thing is we're often weary to approach people because we're not sure. Not only might we offend, but we're not sure of people's finances. But I think it is safe to assume that not everybody's in a similar situation. And I think the ministries that we're about and the ways in which we change lives through our offering and through our ministries are really important. And so what I think we need to do is, if I say to congregations, if you want to raise a lot of money really quickly, the best route is not to look at the people who contributed, your members who contributed zero or very little. The best bang for your buck is to approach those people who are most bonded to your congregation already, who are involved in leadership and who are already really generous. And I think that's one of the things the church has really done well. So approaching your leadership and invoking them and inviting them to step up if it's possible, or at least to prayerfully consider their giving. I think everybody needs to be given that opportunity. But if you start with your leaders, I think that's a real good opportunity. And I've already begun to hear stories of pastoral charges where some of the leaders have increased their giving on their own without even being asked, because they know this is going to be a challenging time. And when you are asking, remember, every stewardship initiative, every invite to contribute should follow what I think is a really important way: inspire, invite, and thank. And so if you're writing a letter, as one of our colleagues has done, lifting up the ministry, lifting up the important ways that you make a difference in people's lives, and then inviting people to prayerfully consider their givings at this time. And for those of you who are already giving and giving significantly, might you consider, increasing your gift at this time, for this time?
And there may be opportunity to reach out to the broader community at this time too. So maybe groups that are realizing now how important the building was in having that community gathering space. So, or I'm aware of ministers who are offering online services and are finding that a number of community members who haven't darkened their door are checking them out online. So to include an invitation to offer gifts is a good thing. Next slide, please. I'm not seeing the slide, but anyway.
No, I'm not setting the slides up at all. There's almost nothing on the slides, and you're doing really well with the talking. So I'd rather have bigger faces. You just carry on talking, and when we have slides with lots of stuff on it that people really need to see, that's more important than in your face, we'll show them.
So guys, how can we inform our congregation members about online giving tools?
Well, I think the first thing that all ministry personnel, whatever flavor you are, need to do is you need to educate yourself. As David mentioned, we've got this document that we're working on that's going to be coming out imminently that has a lot of information about it. There's this thing you may have heard of, it's called Google. You can always use that to get some access to information as well. Call your local stewardship and gift officer, and they'll also be able to give you information. But we need to know what this is we're talking about first, ourselves. Go and try it, see how it works. And then secondly, we need to use every opportunity that's given to us. This time, I think we have a slide that I'd like to see. Stephen?
And I think added to that, folks, is the idea that we make it one of the best stewardship practices of congregations who are most generous is they give people many ways to give. And so as Dave is saying, if you find ways that work and you can be a support to people, to educate yourself, and the key is to make it easy for people to give. And we as stewardship and gifts officers across the country are trying to work with that, and we'll share information. Or even today, I was helping a couple of people set up their Canada Help. So we're there as a resource to you as well, to find the ways that you can give now at this time, and to find ways to communicate that really clearly to your members of your congregation.
David, is this the slide you were wanting?
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. It's one of those things that frankly I'd never thought about until now. So we're all learning new things, which is great. In the big box on that slide, it says "Blessings in Christ, Reverend Dave, Soggy Bottom United Church. Your gift changes lives. Please donate here." If that was, I mean, obviously you'd put your information in it, but if that was your email signature that's automatically attached to the bottom of every email you send, then every time you're sending an email, there's an opportunity for people to make a gift to your church. Like Roger said, as often and as many ways as possible. When you have an online Bible study, when you have an online meeting, isn't this neat that we're able to do a Bible study online now? We've never done that before. That's cool. Did you know you can also make a gift to the church online now? And here's how you do it. So it's going to take a lot of just doing it, but making it easy to give and making sure that people are aware constantly of what the new options are, because they're going to need to hear it over and over again as they learn along with the rest of us.
So we talk a lot in our unit about generosity and giving generously as a faithful Christian practice. Dave and Roger, do you want to speak to that? I think you have a Star Wars slide, Dave, that you wanted to show.
We know and we believe firmly that stewardship is, I think this is, I know this stuff, whatever, is stewardship is part of a faith practice. Stewardship is one of the ways that people grow in their faith. Generosity, giving, is a great antidote to hoarding and fear. After the great hoarding of toilet paper that's gone on, there has been quite a push on, now you need to share that. Now you need to give, because there are other people who are running out of toilet paper now. When we were talking about this in our planning session, this meme had come up on Facebook a little while ago. It's a quote by Yoda saying, "Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering." I don't do a good Yoda voice. Generosity is a way to protect yourself, inoculate yourself from greed, from idolatry. There are great biblical precedents for how this is how we are to be the church together. Think about the stories in Acts of the early church and the Jerusalem church sharing everything they had, of the churches that Paul was planting and the offering that was collected for those who were in need. I mean, this is who we are as the church and as followers of Jesus. We are to be generous and to give.
Roger, tell us about trusting in God at this time.
I think one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that when we give of ourselves, our time, our talent, and our treasure, these are all acts of faith. And when we do that, the more that we give, the more that we have to trust. And there's probably been never a time in many of our lifetimes when this is more true than now. At a time when we're uncertain about so many things, our health, our finances, and so on, as an opportunity. But you know, trusting in God is about trusting that God will provide, and giving people an opportunity to give is not, in fact, is an opportunity for people, or can be an opportunity for people to help to grow in trust and grow in faith. And for congregations, it's a wonderful opportunity to help individuals become bonded to your congregation. People need to hear the good news and to hear the faith stories at this time. And in doing so, we typically, all of us, invite people to respond in faith. And one of the ways we respond in faith is by making a difference in the lives of others. And a big way we do that is through our finances.
So I'm dating myself here, but 25 years ago when I was in theological college, I don't remember ever taking a course on stewardship or encouraging generosity. I don't even think that was part of, our worship component. At least I don't remember it being. So some of us, weren't trained to think about generosity as being a faithful part of ministry practice. So it's one thing to encourage generosity, but to also to think about it as one of the competencies that we need to have as ministry personnel in order to do the work that we are called for, in order to serve well. Dave, tell us about your idea of the discipleship flower.
Yeah, you were only in
have
theological
a
college
slide.
25 years ago? Heck,
I'm
you're a youngster.
Brave chick.
Stephen, we have a slide that will illustrate
Here
what
it comes.
Dave is talking about.
I remember a program about the time you were in theological college called Lifelong Learning.
Yes.
That's really key to ministry. And the last 3 weeks, we've all been recognizing that. I noticed a comment in the chat box from Judith Evenden. We are learning a whole lot right now. I don't know that I can learn anymore. That was my summary, not what she said. Yes, absolutely. I know it can be overwhelming. This is the discipleship flower. Each of the petals is a spiritual practice that are used to build us up as disciples, as followers of Jesus. These are things that bring us into discipleship. They're also things that strengthen us as disciples. Let me find a bigger version here so I can actually see that. Oh, come on, computer, cooperate. Prayer, loving service, worship, Bible study, sharing faith, and generosity. It's important for us to, I believe at least it's important for us to recognize that these are all equally valid and equally important. I cannot imagine doing ministry and not encouraging, teaching, and inviting people into prayer or into worship or into Bible study or to share their faith or to care for people. The same has to apply to generosity as well. This is a key piece to our whole faith experience. Does that help?
So let's talk mechanics here in the last 5 minutes of our conversation. Many of ministers are knocking themselves out, going overnight, going online for worship and learning completely new ways of being together in a worshiping community. How can we go about dedicating the offering in a live streamed worship format? Dave.
I worshiped along with our moderator, Richard, last Sunday on his online worship, and there are links to that all over the United Church website page and the pandemic page. There is a different worship each week. I loved what he did around the worship, and so I've prepared that as a video that we can watch right now. It's a couple of minutes. I sped him up as much as I could without him starting to sound like Mickey Mouse, because he does tend to speak slowly when he worships, because it's meaningful and that's good. But let's watch what Richard did this past Sunday and learn from that.
One of the things that the order of worship that I posted on the moderator's Facebook page said is that a worship service isn't a worship service without announcements. I was once told that a worship service isn't a worship service without an offering. Now, in some ways, I kind of agree, but not completely. You see, I'm not going to pass this plate around. We got to be careful with social distancing. But I do think that it is important that we take a moment to reflect on what it is we do offer. It's not just dollars and cents, although the dollars and cents are important. And if anyone is looking for ways to get their offering to their congregation, and I know that Hooks are trying to figure that out, I do know that if you go to canadahelps.org, all of our congregations are there, and they will be able to get electronic transfers to our congregations. But what I would really like to ask you to do is to take a moment to think about a gift that is in you that you would like to offer to the divine, to God, in the coming week. And I'd like to ask you to think for just a moment about what it is in your life in this turbulent time that you're called to share with God's world. It might be something as simple as knocking on your next door neighbor's door, or picking up the phone, or sending a note. It may be more complicated. You know what that is. But what is it that you would like to offer to God in the coming week? And I'd offer you to put it in this plate. You know, just to take it from you and to set it in here. To know what it is that you'd like to offer to God and to God's world. Holy One, we offer these things to you so that we can use them and use them well for your love in your way.
So that follows a fairly traditional, what I would call a fairly traditional offering. There's an invitation, there's talk about giving and why we do the giving, there's the opportunity to give, and then there's a prayer to dedicate what's been given, just done in an online fashion. I've got another video clip. I think we have, Trish, we have time for?
Yeah, one more, and then
Yep.
I'm going to move through the last question quickly.
Okay, this is of a past moderator, the very Reverend Peter Short, who was leading worship at Wilmot United Church in New Brunswick this past week, also done online. This has a different flavor to it. This is very much about thanking and inspiring as they do their offering there. And we have both the churches and his permission to use this. Thank you to them. So let's watch this.
Back up.
So
each week, our church receives an offering from our generous community. And this part of the service remembers that gift. And so, Ellen, this offering plate that you've just handed me has an inscription on it. It says, it's in loving memory of Jimmy Coates. And Jimmy Coates was a 13-year-old boy who died of polio in 1941. He is one of so many, many precious memories that we carry in this place. In his time, polio and war, it was very, very difficult. And we have our own difficulties in our time. But through thick and thin, in season and out of season, the people of this church have always supported its work and its mission in the name of Jesus. And so we want to thank you, whatever your circumstance today, recognizing that many have lost jobs and lost money in the market, and things have been difficult. So we recognize that people need to give according to their circumstance at the time, what seems right to you in the Spirit. We're very thankful for people who are on par, pre-authorized remittance, because that provides such a steady piece of income for the church through the year. And we now even have an e-transfer capability, which you can read about in the newsletter. So all of which is to say, thank you for your gifts to this community of Jesus.
So a final question before we move to the questions of others. When we talk about money, we often talk about it in terms of, deficits and budgets. And how as leaders do we make the shift to being able to talk about money in the context of mission? Roger.
Yeah, I think we have to, as clergy, reclaim a lot about the finance in terms of reclaiming it as being our Christian response. It's our way of living our faith in the world. When we just talk about money as deficits or as budgets or meeting budgets, I think we shortchange ourselves and our ministries, and we also shortchange the gifts that others provide. And so it's a reframing of language. And so what I've been saying and coaching people is be really positive. Lift up, as we said, inspire people with the wonderful ways in which every day we're making a difference in people's lives in Jesus' name through this community. And invite people as our two examples did, to continue to do that. And an important way to do that is through our giving. And so it involves a reframing, but it also involves a key role for us, which we often haven't had or haven't taken. And it's a time for us to claim that, I think.
And the cornerstones of a strong giving program are inspiring and inviting and thanking. Dave, do you want to have a final comment to wrap up before we turn it over to others for questions?
I think Roger said it very well. It's all
Okay.
about our mission and inspire, invite, and thank. Yep.
So Stephen, over to you.
Well, I'm just watching here. I'm seeing a lot of people sitting back and appreciating. I'm not seeing a lot of questions yet, and now is the time. So by all means, folks, we've got another 15 minutes in our covenanted time, if that would be helpful. Michael Hare mentions on the Zoom chat, the classic Ash Wednesday liturgy says that during Lent, we are to engage in self-examination, penance, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving by reading and meditating upon the word of God. In other words, classic spiritual disciplines. So that's really a lot of part of what you're talking about in the challenge, and then is to how to exercise these classic disciplines during this time of disruption. A helpful
Absolutely.
comment, and thank you for that.
Yes.
And Jane adds, we've done spiritual practice through a few plagues before. So sad but true. Okay, so will regions be asked to financially share with other regions? Some regions have more money than others do. What's happening there? Does anybody know yet?
I know nothing.
David?
I would say David, Eric.
Yeah.
David Armour? Is he muted?
Is Eric there still?
I think Eric has left us.
Yeah, I think he had to.
He's
Yeah, David here. I'd say there's a really good precedent. When we did the restructuring, there was significant sharing from regions that had more significant assets than other regions in receiving less money during the restructuring. And it was just a really positive thing. So I think that's there as a precedent. I think there'll be discussions. It's pretty early on in this, but there'll be discussions as to how regions that have significant assets, often from property sales, how they would maybe act and support the group a little differently than others. So those are discussions to be had, but it's early for that yet.
There's a question here about Canada Helps and some frustration that they would charge money. Can you tell us why they charge money to receive cash? That seems kind of frustrating.
Well, they have to have a business model that supports their organization. First of all, they have to pay Visa or MasterCard. There's a charge to that. I mean, when any organization receives receipts, thanks, pays the card company, and then forwards the money in a bank transfer or a check, all of that costs money. And I think if you looked at the actual cost of doing that and broke it down, you'd find 4% was a really good deal.
I need to say Visa and MasterCard, they all charge vendors at least 3%.
Yeah.
So Canada Helps isn't getting much out of this. It's mostly going to the credit card companies.
Yeah, exactly. And the little bit they get on top helps them do their work. It's not free to have staff do all that. You know, in terms of best practices, we found that's a good fee. As we said earlier, we may get more of a bulk rate, but that's more medium term than short term.
So Tina's saying a lot of our congregations just went through a big financial appeal a few months ago. We don't want to be constantly talking about money. How can we go back to the same well over and over again?
I'll go back to the panel on that. I'd love to jump in, but I don't want to answer all the questions, so jump in. Trish, Dave, Roger.
Yeah, I can start. I think it's important to do an invitation. I don't think this is really a new appeal. In many cases, it's asking our members to continue to contribute as they've been doing, and just finding the opportunity, the new ways that they might have to do that. And if people can, to prayerfully consider their giving, and if they can increase, to do so, and if they need to decrease or take some time, then that's fair game. but to have it before people and to make it easy for people and explain that, like I still am a strong believer in the letter. Do the phone calls for pastoral care, but send out a letter, lift up the important ministries and say, you know, these important ministries need to continue. This is what we're about. And if you can, prayerfully consider your giving at this time, here are some of the concrete ways that you can contribute during this crisis to help make a difference in others' lives.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
With
I
people
think that one of
talking
the,
on the, oh, go ahead.
so I think one of the things that we are also encouraging congregations to do, and so these same principles applied before the pandemic, and they're going to apply afterwards. So this is good learning for us all. But one of the things that we encourage congregations to do is, yes, you need to do an annual some kind of giving program, but that's not the only time of the year that you should be talking about giving and generosity and the spiritual practice of giving. So as we get better at doing that more often, then it's not, oh, there they are talking about money again because they want more money. It's, oh, there they are because we're a congregation that's making a difference and we're doing great things and this is how we resource it. It becomes part of the culture of the congregation rather than the only time we do it is during a crisis. So it's a chance for us to practice that as well.
And I would say too, there are people in my congregation, and I lead a congregation as well as do this national work, who are amazed to see the church stepping up in the middle of this crisis. All of a sudden, we're getting busier and busier, and that's inspiring. I mean, we can't let go of the inspire part of that message. We have to be doing things that are inspiring. We have to be the church in unprecedented times, and people will get excited by what we're doing and they'll support us to the best of their ability.
Absolutely.
If we say we pull in our horns, we close our doors, we lay off our staff, we'll see you when this is all over, they'll say, what's the point of the church?
Amen.
I notice a comment here from Elise, and I'll maybe direct it to David Armour. How might mission and service funds be used to help others in need at this time?
So the good news is they already are. The good news is a lot of the mission and service funds that are supporting our community ministries across Canada and our global ministries around the world are providing them with core funding, and they're using that core funding to do what they're doing and really grapple with the virus. A lot of the funds that are going to congregations, there's some really inspiring stories of that. We're looking at what our options are, and we'd love input on whether there should be a special appeal to support mission and service, or specifically community ministries in Canada or global ministries. We're sort of thinking about that and wondering, we really want to look after congregations first and really help the church first, but then we'd be interested in everyone's thoughts and inputs around how mission and service might respond more in the future and get doing more. That would be my quick take on it, Trish.
I've been reaching out to community ministries in the last week or so and asking the questions around, how they're responding on the ground and in this time, and who are our most vulnerable people. How are our mission service funds ensuring that those people are taken care of, responding to their needs? And there are many, I just can't, the heartwarming stories that are coming out of that, I'm really eager to share with you, because I do think it's important that we thank people who have so faithfully given to mission and service for the way that their funds are helping people right now, today, especially in this crisis. So I hope to be talking about that more in the coming weeks.
On the chat, Don is saying he remembers Roger's counterpart out west saying people don't want to give to a sinking ship. I think that's absolutely true. And as ministers, it's our role to ensure that the ship isn't sinking and to tell people what we're doing with the wind in our sails.
Exactly.
Literally. Let's hear it for Jane in British Columbia. Yay.
Yay.
So Kumi says, we just prepared our spring summer newsletter. It's going out by email this Saturday. In there, the treasurers wrote short articles on what we're still doing as the church and how we need financial help more than ever. We have received more donations for the food banks we lead through our Canada Helps online than to the church's general funds. Interesting.
Yeah, people want to get involved and make a difference right now.
Are there other questions that are coming up? We've got about 8 minutes left, but I see that people are starting to sign out, and I don't want to lose you if
Maybe we should
we
run the
want to.
slides for
Yeah.
the rest of the, so people know who their contacts are.
We could, or I could just post that to the recording page. They can't take an email address off the slide. I can show you what's there, but we'll make sure that you can get access to all of these email addresses easily from the recording page. So who are these people, Dave? Tell us about them.
So these are the stewardship and gifts officers, the deployed field staff from the philanthropy unit that are spread out across the country and assigned by regions. You just saw Jane and Melody go past. That takes care of all of Northern Ontario through British Columbia. Jane has the Manitoba West, and then there's myself and Karen, who are looking after most of what we think of as Southern Ontario. Trish and Roger. Trish has Eastern Ontario through to the Maritimes, and Roger has all of Atlantic Canada.
Okay.
So we're there to help you, to make you look good. These are the contact information for specific questions or issues around mission and service, gifts with vision, PAR, and legacy giving that people can contact through.
Okay.
David,
and I can tell you that these slides are already posted at the recorded webinar section of the United in Learning page, along with a link to the YouTube that is recording as we speak. So you can, even if you're signing off early, go and pick up these copies of these slides now and get those email addresses right away.
David, you were going to just tell us about or look for suggestions for future webinars. I think that's important as people are signing off.
Yeah, exactly. Just some concluding comments, if I can, Steve.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to run us through the list of staff. That's awesome. We got that done. Basically really wanted to thank you, Steve, for doing an awesome job, for Eric for his terrific presentation, and Clyde background helping out, Trish, Dave, and Roger on the panel. Just want to say to the ministers on the call, this is an opportunity for you to think about your role in a time when it's really, really needed. Think about your role in generosity and giving, and think about some of the things we've talked about today. The other thing we'd like you to think about is what ideas would you like us to address in future sessions? We've notionally set out the treasurer's session and this session, so once a week. We're going to do another one next week. We're planning, and we'd really be interested in everyone's suggestions. So if you can type in or email afterwards suggestions on what topic areas you'd like to cover, specifically on dealing with the crisis, but also, from our team as well, if there are topics around generosity and giving and around really shoring up the finances and building that within your congregation, we'd love to take a run at it. So all your thoughts and suggestions would be really helpful.
That's
So
great, David. Thank you. And I can let you know, I was talking with Kate Rod, who is my supervisor this morning, about exactly that too. And she's trying to put together a panel of people who are doing online worship well, and so that we could offer a webinar next Thursday in this same time slot on different ways of doing online worship. So we're also looking at pastoral care and different ways to do pastoral care if we can't actually go and sit at the bedside. So we're not just talking about new webinars in the philanthropy area, although that's probably important too. But this is calling new ministry skills out of all of us. And those of us at National are scrambling to try to put together as many resources as we can to feed the needs. So email me, maybe I'm the better contact here, because we're going to cover the waterfront and topics. Not that I have all the answers, but that maybe I have access to some of the people who do. And we'll try to create that list, because I think this is a way to be church together, and we need each other more than ever. It's about 3 minutes to the top of the hour, and I think we can probably draw this to a close. What a wonderful 90 minutes we've had together, and thank you to each of you who've done that. I know that somebody was set up to do a closing prayer, and I don't know who it was, but I think it's important.
That would be me again.
Go for it, Dave.
So advance the slide, please. There it is. And as we did at the beginning, so we will do at the ending, let us pray together. Dear God, you are kind and generous. You give us so much. We pray today for those who have so little. Help us to share. Help us to help others to share. We ask it and do it in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much, folks, for being here with us. And it sounds like this has been helpful for you, so that's great.
Mm-hmm. So again, if you want to see the recording, it's there and available to you. Some wonderful ideas coming up on the chat and on the chat on both of these programs. So peace and blessings to you as we strive together to be the church in these times. And we'll look forward to seeing you again on the next program.
Great.
Save these time slots. Bye for
Thank
now.
you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.